Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. Finally getting out into the yards and being able to get some work done. So I'll be going through these hives, checking to see winter mortality, putting in pollen patties now that the weather is starting to improve, provided that they've got plenty of honey in them. So I've got a few resources here with me, some pollen patties that I've made up. Not very big ones, just little pollen patties to kickstart things into the spring, and some winter patties for those hives that are too not full enough of food in order to feed them pollen patties. It's not looking like a great year so far this year for survivorship over the winter time in this region. I think a lot to do with the up and down temperatures this year, and even with insulation, a lot of hives have suffered. And we're not out of the woods yet. We've still got a good month and a half to go before we can say that it looks like they've made it. So fingers crossed, we'll go through this yard and see how things look. Well, so far things are looking great. I'm at 6 out of 6, surviving nicely, all with decent sized clusters. Just want to show you what these clusters are looking like. They vary a little bit. Some of the clusters are up into this space, and some are just only in the frames, which is where I'd actually rather them be. But let me show you. This cluster is nicely in the frames here. I'm going to put that pollen patty right on top of them. They're covering about 5 frames, but they're relatively small. One or two of these hives didn't have the full set of gear. One or two didn't have a feeding rim on, and one or two didn't have the proper full insulation board on, but they've all so far done pretty well. Let's have a look. See if we can keep our run going. The first one, I can't actually see things up at the top. Assuming there is a cluster in there, it's much further down. It's only 30 degrees this morning, so it's not warm. So I only want to keep these hives open for literally seconds. Just enough to get food on where appropriate. Cluster, in this particular case, the cluster is attached to here. I would rather it down in the frames, so I don't mind it falling down a bit, and I'm going to put the pollen patty on top. hopefully that cluster will move down. This is the type of hive where I will usually end up putting the foil cover in later in the season when it's a little bit warmer to push them down into the frames. So far, this is 100% success. If only all the yards could be like that. Again, cluster 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames there. Some food in there. That's exactly what I want to see. Maybe slightly bigger clusters would be nice, but these bees are overwintering with modest sized clusters. Now they should start to grow pretty quickly with the pollen being put in there and the weather warming up. Nice sized cluster, but right in the corner. So I want to make sure that I bridge the food over to here. There's plenty of honey over here. So I'm going to put some patties in there just to make sure everything can move across out of that area. Now that cluster was in touch with those patties, pollen patty and winter patty, just to help them move from the corner into the rest of the area. It's certainly, the weather is certainly going to be helpful for them, because from here on in we have days in the 40s, nights only just getting into the 20s, so it's looking promising. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 out of 10 so far. Very nice. They're alive. We've got a bee coming out right now. Just at the top of the cluster. It's about the size of a soccer ball. Just touching the top. You can't tell, the cluster's probably further down. In this yard in particular, I had a few where I couldn't see the cluster at the beginning of March, but by beginning of April I had a very decent sized cluster right up at the top. So this doesn't mean that they're not alive. If I could take the temperature there, if I had a thermometer, I could tell whether they were alive or not. But right now, I don't. But the hives that are using the food very slowly will only move up from the bottom area slowly as well. So you may not see them until quite late in the season, late in the winter. One thing about single brood chambers over the winter time is you know what you know. You can see it right there. How's that for a nice cluster there? Very quickly put the food in, just looking to give them that little nudge for towards spring. Nice. You see plenty of honey all around these clusters. No risk of them running out of food. cluster right there. Covers 6 frames. And last and hopefully not least, well, that's great. I could see the cluster, all of which were decent sized clusters in 17 out of 19 hives. And there's other two, I think the cluster is just down much lower. So I may have again 100% survival. I had 95% survivorship in this yard last year with 19 out of 20. Right now it looks like I've either got a minimum of 17%, 17 out of 19, or 19 out of 19, maybe 18 out of 19. So this yard has consistently been good for overwintering for me. Very pleased, and that is despite it being exposed to northerly and westerly winds. So it's a very windy location, but still the bees have done very well here. The Saskatraz bees cope with hard winters better than others. I wish it was the same in all yards, but we'll see. A lot more work to be done. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.